The ship was cold, had learned this in her first hour aboard, and after 3 weeks she still had not gotten used to it. The tall, gray-skinned aliens kept their vessels at temperatures that made her breath come out in small clouds. She wrapped her thin blanket around her shoulders and stared at the metal walls of her cell. She was not supposed to be here. None of the humans were supposed to be here. They had taken them from the colony ship New Dawn during what should have been a peaceful journey to a new world. 200 humans, grabbed like fish from water, brought aboard this massive vessel for reasons nobody understood. Was 26 years old. Back on Earth she had been an engineer. She had fixed machines, built things, made broken devices work again. Her hands knew the language of metal and wire. But here, in this cold cell, her skills meant nothing. She was just another captured human, waiting to learn her fate. The door to her cell slid open with a soft sound. A guard stood there, his 4 eyes looking at her without any feeling she could read. He was tall, almost 3 meters, with long arms that ended in 6-fingered hands. His gray skin had a slight shine to it, like wet stone. "Human," he said, his voice was deep and rough. "Come." Stood slowly. She had learned that moving fast made the nervous, and nervous sometimes hurt people. She followed the guard through the ship's narrow halls, past other cells where she caught quick looks at other humans. Some she knew, most she did not. They walked for a long time. The ship was huge, much bigger than anything humans had ever built. Finally, they came to a large room filled with metal tables. On each table sat pieces of broken machinery. His heart beat faster. She knew machines. She understood them better than she understood most people. A stood at the center of the room. This one was different from the guards. She wore a dark robe and had symbols painted on her gray skin. Her 4 eyes studied with something that might have been interest. "You are the one they call engineer," the robed said. Her voice was smoother than the guards. Nodded. "I fix things." "Yes." They made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Your kind has a strange talent for this. We have watched you humans. You take broken things and make them work. You are like small insects, always building, always fixing." Did not respond. She had learned that they liked to talk about humans as if they were animals. It was better to stay quiet during these moments. The robed walked to one of the tables and picked up a piece of metal about the size of his head. It was clearly some kind of machine, but it was badly damaged. Burn marks covered its surface. Wires hung loose from open panels. Several parts were missing entirely. "This was a scout drone," they said. "It was damaged in a battle with the are our enemies. They have been our enemies for 1,000 years." She dropped the damaged drone on a table near. It landed with a heavy sound. "Fix it." Looked at the drone, then she looked at the why. Those 4 eyes narrowed. "Because I command it." "I mean," said carefully, "why do you want me to fix it? You have your own engineers. Your ships are more advanced than anything we've built. Why give this to a human?" There was quiet for a moment. Then she made that laughing sound again. "Curious. Your kind is always curious." She stepped closer to, "I will tell you, small human. Our engineers say this drone cannot be fixed. The damage is too great. The parts that are missing cannot be replaced because we no longer make them. This drone is from an old design. It is, how would you say, garbage." "Then why?" "Because I want to see what you will do with it." Those eyes seemed to shine. "Your kind has a reputation. You take garbage and make treasures. You find ways where there are no ways. I want to see if the stories are true." Looked at the drone again. It was badly damaged, yes, but she could see the shape of what it had been. She could see how the pieces connected, how power must have flowed through its systems. Her fingers itched to touch it, to explore its secrets. "What do I get?" she asked. They tilted her head. "What do you want?" "Better conditions for the other humans. Warmer cells, more food, medicine for the sick ones." They studied her for a long moment. "You ask for others, not yourself. Strange." She nodded slowly. "Very well. If you fix this drone and make it fly again, I will improve conditions for your herd." "They're not a herd, they're people." "Yes, yes," the waved one of her long hands. "You have one cycle of this ship's day and night. I will return then to see your failure." She turned and walked away, leaving alone in the room full of broken machines. Stood still for a minute, just looking at the damaged drone. Then she cracked her knuckles, pulled up a chair, and got to work. The drone was worse than she had thought. Much worse. The main processor was fried. The power core was cracked and leaking some kind of blue liquid. The motor assembly was bent at an angle that should not exist, and the communication array was simply gone, ripped away as if by a giant hand. But had fixed worse. Once, during her training on Earth, her teacher had given her a broken coffee maker, a dead phone, and a children's toy and told her to make something that could fly. She had built a drone that flew for 3 hours before landing safely. Her teacher had called it impossible, had called it Tuesday. She started by taking the drone apart completely. She laid every piece on the table, organizing them by function. She made notes in her head about what worked, what was damaged, and what was missing. Then she started walking around the room, looking at the other broken machines on the other tables. They had left her alone with a room full of garbage. They probably thought she would fail. They did not understand that to an engineer a room full of garbage was a room full of possibility. She found a power core in an old cleaning robot. It was smaller than the drone's original core, but it worked. She found motor parts in a broken door mechanism. She found wire in a collapsed lighting system. Piece by piece, she gathered what she needed. The real challenge was the processor. Without a brain, the drone could not fly. She searched every table, opened every broken machine, but could not find a processor that would work. Then she remembered her watch. It was a small thing, a gift from her father before she left Earth. It had a tiny computer inside that could do simple calculations and display time in different zones. It was not powerful. It was not meant to fly a drone, but had learned long ago that machines did not care what they were meant to do. They only cared about what they could do. She took the watch apart with careful fingers. The processor inside was tiny, smaller than her fingernail, but it was clean and undamaged. She would need to reprogram it completely. She would need to teach it a new language, a new purpose. She smiled. She had always been good at teaching. Hours passed, did not notice. She was lost in the work, her mind and hands moving together in a dance she knew well. She stripped wire with her teeth. She bent metal with her bare hands. She used her own hair to make tiny brushes for cleaning delicate parts. The guards checked on her twice. They watched her work with their 4 eyes, but they did not speak. They did not understand what she was doing. To them, she was just a human playing with garbage. By the time the room's lights dimmed to signal night, had rebuilt the drone's body. It was smaller now, sleeker. She had removed unnecessary parts and added things from other machines. The power core from the cleaning robot sat at its heart. The motors from the door mechanism gave it flight, and her father's watch gave it thought. But it still was not done. It could fly now, yes, but the had called it a scout drone. It needed to see, it needed to hear, it needed to report what it found. Looked at the remaining pieces on her table. She looked at the other machines in the room, and slowly an idea began to form in her mind. An idea that was perhaps a little dangerous. An idea that was very, very human. The robed returned when the lights came back on. She found sitting on the floor, her back against a table, her eyes closed. The human looked exhausted. Her hands were covered in small cuts. Her hair was wild and messy. And floating above her, quiet as a whisper, was the drone. The stopped walking, her 4 eyes went wide. "You fixed it." Opened her eyes and smiled. "I did more than fix it." She held up her hand and the drone drifted down to hover over her palm. It was beautiful in its strangeness. It no longer looked like a machine. It looked like something new. something that had never existed before. "Show me," the said. Her voice was different now. There was respect in it and perhaps a little fear. Smile grew wider, with pleasure. The drone shot upward, moving faster than the eye could follow. It zigzagged across the room, dancing between tables and around poles. Then it stopped in front of thee and projected a beam of blue light. In that light a picture formed. It showed herself, standing exactly where she stood, with exactly the expression she wore. "Real-time imaging," said. "It can see in all directions at once and show you what it sees from any angle." The reach toward the image, but her hand passed through it like smoke. "This is not what the drone did before." "No," agreed. "Before it was just a scout, now it's something else." She whistled softly and the drone returned to her hand. She pressed a small button she had installed on its side. A panel opened, revealing a tiny chamber inside. "I found some interesting things in your broken machines," said. "Things that burn very hot, things that explode when they mix. I don't know what you used them for originally, but I know what they can do now." They took a step back. "You made it into a weapon." "I made it into a survivor," corrected. "Like me, like all humans, we don't just fix things, we make them better, we make them stronger, we make them able to protect themselves." She stood up slowly, the drone hovering at her shoulder like a loyal pet. "You wanted to see what a human could do with garbage. Now you've seen. We take what you throw away and make it into something you fear." There was silent for a long moment. Then she made that laughing sound, louder this time. "The stories were true. Your kind is dangerous. Only when we need to be." Eyes were hard. "Now, about those better conditions for my people." They nodded slowly. "You will have them, but human. I think you and I need to talk more. They are coming. They have been winning this war for 50 years. Our weapons are failing. Our ships are falling." She looked at the drone floating by shoulder. "Perhaps what we need is not better weapons. Perhaps what we need is human garbage." Looked at the drone. She thought about the other humans in their cold cells. She thought about the children who cried at night, the sick ones who needed medicine, the scared ones who needed hope. "Let my people out of the cells," she said. "Give us a workshop. Give us your garbage, all of it, and give us a reason to fight for you instead of against you." They studied her with all four eyes. "You would help us, after we took you, after we put you in cages." "I would help anyone," said, "who is willing to be helped, even you." There was quiet. Then she bowed her head just slightly. It was the first time I'd seen one of them show respect to a human. "Come then, engineer," they said. "Let us begin." Followed her out of the room, the drone humming softly at her shoulder. In her mind, she was already planning, already building, already imagining what 200 human engineers could do with a ship full of broken machines. The thought they were the masters here. The thought humans were clever animals, good for fixing simple things. They had no idea what was about to happen. 3 days later, stood in the center of what they now called the human workshop. It had been a storage room before, filled with broken machines and forgotten parts. Now it was alive with activity. 47 humans worked at tables and stations throughout the room. Some were engineers-like. Others were scientists, teachers, farmers, builders. All of them had skills. All of them had hungry minds and clever hands. They had watched in confusion as the humans organized themselves. They did not understand how the humans worked together, how they shared ideas without being ordered, how they solved problems by talking and arguing and laughing. "This is chaos," one officer had complained. "There is no command structure, no hierarchy. How do they know what to do?" Had smiled at him. "We know because we decide together. That's how humans work best, not from the top down but from all directions at once." The officer had not understood, but he had stopped complaining after the humans produced their first invention. It was a small thing, almost silly looking. A sphere the size of a fist, covered in tiny sensors. The humans called it it could be thrown or launched, and it would float through enemy spaces, mapping everything it saw and sending the information back in real time. They had similar technology, but their version was expensive, complicated, and took days to build. The humans made from garbage parts in 2 hours. By the end of the first week, they had made over 200. Now, on day 3, was working on something bigger, something that made them nervous. "What is that?" asked Commander, who had been assigned to watch the humans. He was looking at a machine on his table. It was large, about the size of a human torso, and covered in metal plates that made it look like an armored insect. "We call it a scrapper," said. "It's a maintenance drone. It flies through a ship and repairs damage as it finds it. Holes in the hull, broken wires, damaged systems. It fixes them automatically." His 4 eyes blinked. "We have repair systems." "Yes, but your repair systems need operators. They need someone to tell them what to fix. Scrappers don't need that. They think for themselves. They see a problem, they fix it. If they don't have the right parts, they make them from whatever is nearby." "That is very useful." Smiled, "I know." She did not tell about the scrapper's other features. She did not mention that it could, if needed, disassemble enemy machines as easily as it repaired friendly ones. She did not mention that it carried the same explosive compound she had put in her first drone. Some secrets were worth keeping. Around her, the other humans continued their work. James, a chemist from the colony ship, was mixing compounds that created incredibly strong glues. Maria, a programmer, was writing code that could crack security systems. Old Tom, who had been a mechanic for 40 years, was teaching Young how to rebuild engines 3 times as efficient as designs. They were all talking, sharing, building on each other's ideas. It was beautiful thought. This was what humans did best. They took problems apart. They put solutions together. They refused to accept that anything was impossible. The door to the workshop opened and the robed entered. Had learned her name. She was called, and she was some kind of scientist or priest among her people. She looked at the busy humans with something like wonder. "Engineer," she said, "we need to talk." Set down her tools and followed to a quiet corner. "What is it?" His voice was low. "They are coming. Our scouts have detected a war fleet moving toward this sector. They will arrive in 10 days. Felt cold. "How big is the fleet?" 70 warships, we have 12. Gray skin seemed to grow paler. "We cannot win this battle, we are planning to run." "Run where?" "There is a jump point 4 days from here. If we can reach it before they catch us, we can escape to space." "Thought about this, but you won't make it, will you?" Was silent, that was answer enough. "They are faster than us," finally said. "They will catch us in 7 days. 3 days before we reach the jump point." "So you're going to die," said, "and all the humans on this ship will die with you." "Yes," his 4 eyes met too, "unless you can help us." Looked back at the workshop, at the humans working, building, creating, at the piles of garbage that were slowly becoming something more. 10 days, she said. 10 days until they arrive. 7 days until they catch us. Nodded slowly. Her mind was already racing, already planning, already building. "I need more people," she said. "All the humans on this ship. I need full access to every broken machine, every storage room, every piece of garbage you have. And I need the engineers to work with us, not as masters, as partners." Studied her. "You think you can save us?" "I think we can try." His voice was hard. "And trying is what humans do best." Bowed her head again. "Then try with everything you have." Returned to the workshop. She climbed onto a table and whistled loudly. Every human stopped working and looked at her. "Listen up," she said. "We have a problem, a big problem, and we have 10 days to solve it." She told them about the fleet. She told them about the running and the chasing and the dying that waited at the end. Then she told them her plan. It was crazy. It was impossible. It was exactly the kind of thing humans loved. When she finished talking, the workshop was silent. Then James, the chemist, stood up. "I'm in," he said. "Let's get to work." One by one, the others stood. One by one, they agreed. Soon all 47 were back at their stations, working faster than before, talking louder, thinking harder. They watched in amazement as the humans began to build their impossible plan. They did not understand what was happening. They did not understand how these small, soft creatures could face death with such energy. They were about to learn. Day 4, the ship was a hive of activity. 200 humans now worked throughout the vessel, spread across 12 workshops. They had released everyone from the cells, given them food and warm clothes and tools. In return, the humans were transforming the ship. Walked the corridors with, showing her what they had built. "These are the Watchers," said, pointing to small drones that floated near the ceiling. "They monitor every system on the ship. If something breaks, they alert the nearest scrapper. If they see a fire, they release foam. If they detect an enemy, they scream." Scream looked puzzled. "A loud noise, very loud. It confuses enemy soldiers and marks their location for our weapons." His eyes went wide. Clever. They moved on, showed her the new shields on the hull, made from overlapping plates of compressed garbage. She showed her the upgraded engines, rebuilt by old Tom and his team to run 30% faster. She showed her the communication array that James had modified to jam enemy signals. "This is remarkable," said. "How did you do all this in 4 days?" "We didn't sleep much," admitted. She was tired, they were all tired, but there was no time for rest, not yet. "They will still outnumber us," said, 70 to 12. "I know," smiled. "That's why we're not going to fight them directly." She led to the ship's main cargo bay. Inside, covering every surface, were thousands of small objects. Spheres, cubes, cylinders, all in different sizes. They hummed softly like sleeping insects. "What are these?" asked. "We call them surprises," said. "They're a gift for the—" She picked up a small sphere. "This one finds enemy engines and breaks them. This cube," she pointed to a device covered in tiny holes, "releases a gas that makes it hard to breathe. This cylinder creates a magnetic field that disrupts electronics." Stared at the thousands of surprises. "You made weapons." "We made survivors," corrected. "Just like we did with the drone, just like we do with everything." She put the sphere back. "When they catch us, we're going to fill space with these. Their ships will fly through them like fish through a net. By the time they reach us, half their fleet will be blind, deaf, and gasping for air. And the other half—" Smile faded. "That's where it gets hard." Day 7. The fleet appeared on the edge of their sensors. Stood on the bridge of the ship, surrounded by tall gray aliens and nervous humans. On the main screen, 70 points of light moved toward them. Each point was a warship. Each warship was faster than theirs. 3 days until they catch us," Commander said. His voice was calm, but his 4 eyes showed fear. Nodded. "Are the surprises ready?" "They are deployed in a trail behind us. They will have to fly through them to reach us." Good. Looked at the screen. "Now we wait." The next 3 days were the longest of his life. She spent them checking systems, adjusting plans, and trying not to think about what was coming. The humans worked until they dropped, then got up and worked more. They began to follow their example. Something strange was happening on the ship. The walls that had existed between humans and were breaking down. Gray aliens sat with pink-skinned humans, sharing meals and stories. An engineer named Meth learned to laugh at human jokes. A human doctor named learned the word for hope. They were becoming something new, not human, something in between. On day 10, they reached the surprises. Watched on the screen as the enemy fleet flew into their trap, spheres attached to hulls. Cubes released their gas through air vents. Cylinders sent magnetic pulses through sensitive electronics. The formation broke apart, ships tumbled, engines failed, communication channels filled with screaming. "It's working," said. Her voice shook with disbelief. "Your surprises are working." "Some of them," said, "but not enough." She was right. Of the 70 ships, only 20 had been disabled by the surprises. 50 were still coming, still chasing, still ready to kill. 50 ships, Commander said. "We have 12. "We have 12 and a ship full of humans," corrected. She turned to face the bridge crew. "Everyone knows the plan." Heads nodded, 4 eyes blinked, nervous hands gripped weapons and tools. "Then let's show these what garbage can do." The battle began at 3:47 ship time. They were a fierce species, tall and sharp-angled with skin like red leather. They believed in honor, combat, and the glory of death in battle. They had conquered 100 worlds with their warships and their warriors. They had never fought humans before. The first ship to reach the vessel was called the Red Blade. It was a cruiser, fast and well-armed. Its captain ordered his warriors to prepare for boarding. They expected a quick fight. They expected fear and surrender. Instead, they found the small spheres floated through the Red Blade's boarding tubes, mapping every corridor and every warrior. The images they sent back told the humans exactly where the enemy was and exactly where they were going. "They're heading for the engine room," reported from her station. 50 warriors, maybe more. Nodded. "Should we send our soldiers to stop them?" "No," pressed a button. "We send the watchers." On the Red Blade, the warriors marched through empty corridors. They found no resistance. They found no enemy. They began to feel confident. Then the lights went out. In the darkness, the watchers attacked. They were small and fast, barely visible in the shadows. They did not kill, they were not built to kill, but they did something almost worse. They screamed. The sound was terrible. It shook bones and rattled teeth. It was the sound of metal scraping metal, of glass breaking, of 100 voices wailing at once. The warriors dropped their weapons and covered their ears. They could not think. They could not fight. They could barely stand. While they were stunned, the scrappers moved in. The maintenance drones had been modified for combat. Their repair tools now cut through armor. Their scanning sensors now found weaknesses. They swarmed over the warriors like metal insects, disabling weapons and restraining limbs. In 10 minutes, 50 warriors were bound and helpless. "The Red Blade is neutralized," reported, moving to the next ship. They repeated this pattern again and again. To scout, watchers to stun, scrappers to capture. The humans had no traditional weapons. They had not trusted them with guns, so they fought with sound and speed and clever machines. It was not glorious. It was not honorable by standards, but it was effective. By the time the sun set, or would have set if they had been near a sun, 32 ships had been captured or disabled. Their warriors sat in holding cells, confused and humiliated. Their captains demanded to speak with the commander. Instead, they were brought before. The lead captain was named. He was huge, even for his kind, with scars on his red skin and hatred in his yellow eyes. He looked down at this small human woman in dirty clothes, and his lip curled. "You are the one who did this," he demanded. "We are the ones who did this," corrected, "all 200 of us." Snorted. "You are nothing, weak creatures who cannot even fight with real weapons. You hide in shadows and scream like children." "Yes," agreed, "and yet here you are in chains." His hatred turned to something else, something like respect buried deep beneath his pride. "What are you?" he asked. Smiled. "We're human. We're engineers. We fix things." She stepped closer to him. "And right now, the thing that needs fixing is this war. The Enda have been killing each other for 1,000 years. It's stupid and wasteful, and it needs to stop." Laughed. "It was an ugly sound. And you think you can stop it, one small woman?" "I think we can try." His voice was steady. "I think that's what humans do. We try things that seem impossible. We fix things that seem broken. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes, we succeed." She turned too, who stood nearby with a nervous look. "Open communications with the remaining ships. Tell them their captain wants to talk." Hesitated. "Is this wise?" "Probably not," shrugged, "but let's try anyway." The negotiations lasted 3 days. Sat in a room with commanders, captains, and human engineers. They argued and shouted and threatened. Several times someone stormed out. Several times weapons were drawn. But kept talking, kept listening, kept looking for ways to connect. She learned that the war had started over a planet rich in minerals. Both sides wanted it. Neither side would share. For 1,000 years they had fought and died for rocks. "What if neither side gets the planet?" asked. Everyone stared at her. "What if a third group takes it instead? A group that will mine the minerals and sell them to both sides equally. A group that has no stake in your old hatreds." "What group?" demanded. Smiled. "Us humans." It was a crazy idea. It was an impossible idea. But over 3 days of talking, it began to seem less crazy, less impossible. The end did not trust each other. They never would. But they were both starting to trust these strange little creatures who fix things. On the 3rd day, they signed an agreement. The war was not over. 1,000 years of hatred could not end in 3 days, but it was paused. The end would stop fighting. Humans would manage the disputed planet, and slowly, carefully, the 3 species would learn to work together. When it was done, walked to the viewport and looked out at the stars. She was tired, so tired, but she felt something she had not felt since they took her from the new dawn. She felt hope. Came to stand beside her. "You did something remarkable," they said. "You took a war and turned it into a peace, like you take garbage and turn it into treasure." Nodded slowly. "That's what we do. That's what humans have always done. We find broken things and we fix them. Even when everyone says it is impossible. Especially then." Was quiet for a moment, then she asked, "What will you do now?" Thought about the question. She thought about the colony ship she would never reach, about the new world she would never see, about the life she had planned now lost forever. But she also thought about the workshop full of humans, about the N who were learning to trust, about the galaxy full of broken things waiting to be fixed. "I think," she said, "we'll find more garbage." Above her, the drone from the workroom hummed softly. It had traveled with her through everything. It was no longer a damaged scout. It was something new, something better. Just like all of them. In the distance, the stars burned cold and bright. Somewhere out there were more wars to end, more machines to fix, more impossible problems waiting for human solutions. Smiled. She could not wait to get started. 5 years later, the Human Engineers Guild had chapters on 47 worlds. They fixed ships and built bridges and negotiated treaties. They took the galaxy's garbage and turned it into gold. And everywhere they went, they told the story of and the damaged drone. The story of how humans took something broken and made it into something that changed everything. They told their children about it. They painted it on their walls. Even species who had never met a human knew the tale. They called it the first fixing. It would not be the last.